Our today's PC is Dell Pro Micro. If you're used to hearing Dell OptiPlex, unfortunately that name is no more. As part of Dell's naming scheme change, Dell OptiPlex machines are now called Dell Pro Micro. As usual, they come with keyboard, mouse, and power adapter in the box. Ours is a custom order with wireless keyboard and mouse, so do not expect to see in yours unless you have paid extra to include them. And here's the star of the show, all new Dell Pro Micro in its glory. If you had a Dell OptiPlex before, the first obvious difference you will notice is the design of the top case. It somehow looks worse, but it is what it is. The front design has also been changed. Again, it looks worse somehow. Change for the sake of change, we guess. One positive change is the new ventilation port on the side panel. It is a good design choice because there's now potential for bigger airflow to keep things cool inside. On the back, things remain almost unchanged. You have a usual 3.5mm power jack, which takes 90-watt power adapter. For the Plus model, they have bigger 7.4mm power adapter. As we have Plus model in our office also, we will make a separate video about those. If you've misplaced your power adapter, a replacement from Dell costs £44 at the time of filming. But if you're looking to save 20 to 30%, why not check out our store? Moving on, using a predecessor as a reference, you can see how similar things are. We have one HDMI and one display port as usual, but there's some great improvement no one will probably ever tell you. You see previously, Dell used to use a very crippled version of HDMI where screen resolution was capped at 1080p, which we found outrageous. This time around, they bumped the max resolution to 4K 60Hz. We were able to run 120Hz in QHD resolution also. Now, with the display port, things are slightly different depending on what processor you have. If you go for 14500T version, the maximum resolution you will get is 4K 60Hz. If you, however, go with Core Ultra versions, you could get resolution up to 5K 60Hz. The USBs at the back also follow Dell's typical ways. 2 USB 3.1, 5 gigabits per second, and 2 low-speed USB 2.0. Do not plug anything other than keyboard or mouse in those, as they are incredibly slow. At the front, ports just swap location. Other than that, there's no change. USB-C is 10 gigabits per second and USB-A is 5 gigabits per second. Pretty slow for 2025 standard. Next to the USB, you have a blank space for flex ports. If you're not familiar with flex ports, they allow you to add additional ports to these blank spaces. You just have to break this metal cover to make space. If you're in the UK, these are the available add-ons you can purchase right now. Our top recommendation is the USB-C module with power delivery and DisplayPort alt mode support. We have one on hand and we'll be installing and testing it right now. One reason we consider this one of the best add-on ports is its ability to handle everything through a single cable. If you're using a dock or a hub monitor with 90 watts of downstream power delivery, you can send audio, video, data, and more, all while powering the device over the same connection. Resolution support is excellent as well. We're currently running 4K at 60 Hz without any issues. We haven't been able to confirm 4K at 120 Hz, as our monitor doesn't support 120 Hz. For users who share monitors between a laptop and desktop PC, switching between devices is quick and seamless, making your setup more efficient and convenient. For wireless setup, most Dell Pro Micro units come with built-in Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, along with Gigabit Ethernet. However, if you happen to get one with a flat right corner, indicating it lacks wireless, don't worry. We're in the process of sourcing original Wi-Fi kits. Be sure to check the comments section for links once they become available. As usual, we'll make a separate installation instruction video. The installation process is quite straightforward. If the original is too expensive or unavailable, we also offer a generic version. You'll just need an adapter for standard antennas. There are some internal design changes, but the fan assembly remains quite similar to older models. It's a bit disappointing that Dell hasn't made more effort to reduce noise levels. HP stands out in this area, using a two-part cooling assembly that helps isolate and dampen fan vibrations. They also include padding and rubber bushings to minimize noise. Even Lenovo has followed suit with their M75Q lineup. We have several Lenovo and HP product reviews coming soon. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out. The heatsink is identical to the one used in the previous model, same size and design. So no significant thermal improvement can be expected, at least not from the hardware side. The RAM sticks are secured using the standard 2-clip mechanism. Simply pull the clips outward to release the modules. As for maximum supported speeds, they depend on the specific processor installed, which can make things a bit confusing. To make it easier for you, here's a simplified speed table. There's a built-in speaker, but we found that to be too weak to use for media consumption. The SSD slot layout has changed, somewhat frustratingly. Dell continues to cut corners in the 14500T model by providing one Gen 3 slot and one Gen 4 slot. The slot closer to the case is Gen 3. When we first noticed a shorter 2230 SSD installed, we were a bit concerned, especially since some 2230 SSDs are Gen 4x2, meaning they use only 2 lanes and are generally slower than full Gen 4x4 drives. However, after running benchmarks, we were relieved to find that Dell is using full-speed SSDs. Even better, they didn't downgrade performance on the 256GB variant. It uses the same high-speed configuration. These PCs no longer include the middle mounting points for 2230 SSDs. So if you're planning to use a shorter 2230 or 2241 SSD, be sure to purchase an adapter or mounting solution to secure properly. Having 2 SSD slots placed so closely together creates a challenge when it comes to using heatsinks. If you're planning to install an SSD heatsink, which Dell does recommend, be careful not to choose one that's too bulky. We had no issues fitting a Samsung 980 Pro with its standard heatsink, but when we tried an HP branded heatsink, there wasn't enough clearance inside the case. Always double-check the dimensions of both the SSD and the heatsink before purchasing to avoid compatibility issues. For those who need large storage capacity, we tested 2 pieces of 2 terabytes SSDs for a combined total of 4 terabytes, and both drives worked successfully. However, it did take a few reboots for the system to detect the secondary SSD, so don't panic if it doesn't show up immediately. When considering the Dell Pro Micro's processor lineup, you'll see Intel's older i-series, the newer Core Ultra family, and AMD models. This mix can be confusing, but we'll simplify it. Since the current i-series processors are virtually identical to last year's 7020 series, opting for the previous generation at a discounted price offers better overall value. We've already reviewed the 7020 series extensively. Be sure to check out our in-depth review video that's coming up. However, if you need HDMI output at 4K resolution, you'll want to opt for the Pro Micro, as last year's 7020 series is limited to 1080p. Additionally, if you're looking for the convenience of an all-in-one USB-C Flex I/O port, the more affordable 14th Gen i5 version of the Pro Micro is also worth considering. With the second-generation Ultra chips, the main push is toward AI. No matter which Ultra variant you pick, they can deliver up to 13 TOPS of processing power. That's trillions of operations per second. While AI may not appeal to everyone at the moment, it's likely that apps you use every day right now will soon begin integrating AI features, at which point its usefulness will become much more apparent. Who knows, future versions of Windows might even require AI capabilities to be eligible for upgrade. Even if you ignore all the AI hypes, the second generation of Core Ultra processors also see a boost in turbo speed, base clock speed, raised cache memory, and faster RAM. All of that also translate to some good performance gain. Take a look at the difference in Geekbench scores between the 14th Gen version and the Ultra 5 235T. The improvement in multi-core performance is quite significant. For office-based scenarios, we also ran PC Mark X. Interestingly, the older model performed better in the app startup test, but the newer Ultra chip outperformed it in all other areas. Pay close attention to the final segment of the test, which relies heavily on graphics performance. The new Ultra processors feature Intel's latest integrated graphics, now branded simply as Intel Graphics, and they deliver impressive results. For power users, we ran Cinebench, which pushes the CPU to its limits, and observed a consistent trend of higher single and multi-core scores with a new processor. Surprisingly, however, It was outperformed by an older Lenovo M80Q in this test. We'll be reviewing that PC as well, so stay tuned. If you're considering going with the Ultra 7 processors, you're getting everything we've already mentioned, plus a few important performance enhancements. Specifically, the Ultra 7 comes with 2 additional performance cores, giving you 4 extra threads compared to the Ultra 5. You also get a slightly faster turbo boost speed, along with higher L1 and L2 cache, which helps improve responsiveness in demanding tasks and multitasking. While the inclusion of AMD is certainly exciting, CPUs in this particular model fall behind Intel in performance. Unlike Intel, AMD continues to follow a traditional core and thread architecture, rather than adopting a hybrid approach with performance and efficiency cores. AI features are also exclusive to the Ryzen 7 Pro model. Interestingly, Dell has capped the RAM speed at 4,800 megatransfers per second, despite the CPU being fully capable of supporting higher speeds, a somewhat puzzling limitation. At the moment, we only have access to the Intel version, but we've been actively monitoring online for Ryzen benchmarks, and so far, the outlook isn't promising. Based on what we've seen, the Ryzen 5 Pro 8500G appears to perform roughly on par with last year's 14th Gen i5. While the Ryzen 7 only narrowly keeps pace with the 2nd Gen Core Ultra 5 in overall performance. It will be interesting to see how it handles demanding workloads and graphics-intensive tasks. After all, Radeon integrated graphics have consistently delivered better real-world performance than Intel's. Power consumption is quite typical, with barely any energy use in sleep mode. However, in idle mode, this system consumes significantly less power than its counterparts, around 12 watts. In contrast, older generations of PCs typically remain around the 18-watt mark when idle. Under light to moderate use, the power consumption fluctuates between 20 watt to 70 watt. Under sustained heavy workloads, the CPU initially exhibits a significant spike in power consumption for several seconds, consistent with short-term boost behavior. However, continued stress results in the CPU throttling back to approximately 50 watts, where it stabilizes for the duration of a load. This behavior suggests the activation of power or thermal management limits designed to maintain system stability and protect hardware integrity. This brings us to the end of the video. Creating content like this takes us several days of hard work, and in some cases, as with this instance, even results in damaging a device worth 360 pounds. If you found the video helpful, please consider hitting the like button and subscribing to support the channel. It really helps us keep going.